April 24, 1980. It was late at night. A secret military operation was about to begin, one that the United States had planned in complete secrecy. The mission was extremely dangerous. Its objective was to enter a hostile country hundreds of kilometers away and rescue American citizens being held captive. But what happened in the middle of the desert during this mission turned it into one of the most famous failed military operations in history. This mission was known as Operation Eagle Claw. The story begins in 1979. At that time, a massive political upheaval took place in Iran, known in history as the Iranian Revolution. After the revolution, the government of Iran changed completely, and anti-American sentiment began to rise rapidly. On November 4, 1979, hundreds of protesters gathered outside the United States Embassy, Tehran. Within minutes, the crowd stormed the embassy and took control of the building. The American diplomats and staff inside were captured. In total, 52 American citizens were taken hostage. This event later became known as the Iran hostage crisis. For the United States, this was a massive shock and a national humiliation. For months, the U.S. government attempted to negotiate and applied diplomatic pressure to secure the hostages' release, but every attempt failed. At that time, the President of the United States was Jimmy Carter. He was facing increasing pressure from the American public and the media. Every day, television news channels broadcast updates about the hostage crisis. People were demanding answers. Eventually, a secret decision was made in the White House. Diplomacy had failed. Now, a secret military mission would be launched. The U.S. military, CIA, and Special Operations commanders began planning a highly complex rescue mission. According to the plan, large transport aircraft would land there, helicopters would arrive at the same location, and all the forces would regroup. Then, on the following night, they would move toward Tehran and launch the rescue mission. On the night of April 24, 1980, American transport aircraft and helicopters secretly flew toward Iran. Inside the aircraft were Special Forces soldiers who knew the mission was extremely dangerous. If they were captured, they might never return home alive. After several hours of flying, the first transport aircraft successfully landed at Desert 1. Everything was going according to the plan, but soon the situation began to change. As the helicopters were flying over the Iranian desert, they encountered a massive sandstorm. In desert regions, these powerful dust storms are known as haboobs. The air was filled with thick clouds of sand, making it almost impossible for the pilots to see ahead. Several helicopters became disoriented, while others started experiencing mechanical problems. By the time the helicopters finally reached Desert 1, the situation had already become critical. To continue the mission, at least 6 operational helicopters were required. However, after inspecting the aircraft, the commanders realized that fewer than 6 helicopters were still functional. This meant that continuing the mission would be extremely risky and possibly impossible. The commanders quickly assessed the situation and made a difficult decision. The mission would be aborted. The soldiers were ordered to prepare for departure and return home, but the most tragic moment of the mission was yet to come. As the forces were preparing to leave Desert 1, one helicopter attempted to reposition itself. Suddenly, the pilot lost control. The helicopter crashed directly into a C-130 transport aircraft. Within seconds, a massive explosion erupted in the desert. Flames lit up the dark night sky. In this devastating accident, 8 American servicemen lost their lives, and several aircraft were destroyed. The mission had completely failed. American forces were forced to retreat immediately, leaving behind destroyed equipment in the desert. Meanwhile, the hostages were still being held captive in Tehran. The failure of this operation deeply shocked the United States.
Later, President Jimmy Carter publicly accepted full responsibility for the failed mission. The hostages would remain captive for many more months. In total, they were held for 444 days. Finally, on January 20th, 1981, after intense diplomatic negotiations, the hostages were released. Although Operation Eagle Claw was a failure, it had a lasting impact on the U.S. military. The disaster revealed serious weaknesses in coordination between different branches of the armed forces. As a result, the United States began reorganizing and strengthening its special operations forces. New strategies, training programs, and command structures were developed to prevent such failures in the future. Today, Operation Eagle Claw is remembered as a dramatic and tragic military mission. It was an operation in which one of the most powerful militaries in the world attempted to rescue its citizens from enemy territory, but harsh desert conditions and unexpected complications turned it into one of the most notable military failures in modern history. It remains a powerful reminder that in war and covert operations, even the most carefully planned missions can be undone by unforeseen circumstances.